Welcome to Health Conscious Entrepreneurs, where we uncover secrets to balancing entrepreneurship, life, and healthy habits to achieve radiant health. I'm your host, Ngoc Tai. Today, I have my friend, Miss Riana Milne from Florida. Riana, please share what your passion, your background, and uh, let the audience know your superpower.
Okay. Hi, Knock.
Hi.
Thanks for having me. And hello, everybody. Welcome. As a coach, my journey of over 21 years included going for a triple master's in applied clinical and counseling psychology. I graduated in year 2000, went into private practice, and also served under different capacities. I served children in school from grades kindergarten all the way through college for trauma work, in hospital settings for ages 5 through 19, drug and alcohol addiction centers for teenagers, and also women from the prison system. So I've had 21 years of working with people in both childhood and love trauma, meaning traumatic relationships. So whether it was with the family of origin or love relationships. And my passion work is helping those people to heal and personally transform in life, love, career, and move on to create the life they desire and to have the love that they deserve. Some of my passion joy is I'm a writer. I've written 7 books. One went to #1 bestseller, Love Beyond Your Dreams, Break Free of Toxic Relationships to Have the Love You Deserve, and Live Beyond Your Dreams, From Fear and Doubt to Personal Power, Purpose, and Success, which is again all about that mindset for success that I teach my clients.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what journey did you go through to come to this? Because each of us in our relationship, there has to be like a journey, discovery journey of things that impact our life, and then I call that the awakening, because we all have trauma, but something in our life that create this awakening. Did you have an awakening in your life that?
Well, they call that the hero's journey. There's been several things that have been significant. First, losing my very best childhood friend to a drunk driver when we were 16. Mm-hmm. And I questioned how much time do I have in life? And that's what turned me to psychology, philosophy, A Course in Miracles, and other spiritual studies. So that was step one. And my second experience was losing my college roommate of 3 years and my best friend when she was murdered by her boyfriend. Her name is Corinne. Mm-hmm. So again, I questioned how much time do I have left, and that I swore I would never be in a toxic, abusive relationship. Mm-hmm. Until I married. And, the first husband I met at college. Back then, you married your college sweetheart. And unfortunately, he was not a good person and stole quite a substantial amount of money from my mother, $200,000. So when I was 24, that's probably like $500,000 in today's money. And it took me as a single mom. I left that marriage when my girls were just 4 and 5. And basically, it took me 16 to 18 years to pay her back because that's the right thing to do. And I live in integrity. During that time period, I also, was studying again a lot, and really the mindset for success got me through that hard time period. And at 26, I opened up a model and talent company and an agency. Mm-hmm. And everyone in Erie, PA says, oh, it'll never work. Nobody would be a model in Erie because it's a blue collar town. Yeah. Within 6 months, it went on to be an international award-winning model and talent school of the year. And I put people in films and soaps and so on. But there was another transformation later in life that with a second marriage, that I married someone who was like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And he seemed like the perfect partner, introduced by his school superintendent. He's a school principal. Wow, stand-up guy, works hard, educated. We had a lot of fun together. We traveled the world together. It was fabulous. Yeah. And really, he was a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So what he presented to the world was totally different than his secret life. Yeah. Well, the secret life exploded on him. He was discovered at school, and with all kinds of things you shouldn't be doing it as a school principal. Yeah. And he was fired immediately. So not only did he ruin his life, but because I was married to him, it ruined my life. Yeah. It was devastating to my business. So I had to rebuild due to his actions, but that didn't take me too long. Yeah. But he's there, I don't know why I sabotage and ruin everything I love. And I said, I don't either. but I'm going to figure it out. And that became my mission.
Yeah.
And childhood trauma was not talked about at that time at all. And when I looked at his past and other people who had traumatic relationships and the people that I worked with who came from trauma, 10 traumas are very evident to me that ruined adult relationships that happened in love. There's more than 10.
Yeah.
But I put together the childhood trauma checklist several years ago of the top 10 traumas that impact adults in life, love, and business.
Yeah.
So that's what I usually talk about.
Yeah, that's amazing. Because I totally agree, because a lot of us go through trauma and we don't realize how impactful it is and the kind of people that's attracted to us, right? Our energy, and or we attract to certain energy because
people of trauma attract people of trauma.
Yeah.
And my research showed 90% of people have at least 1 to 3 of the traumas on my top 10 checklist.
Yeah.
And they don't even realize it. People think trauma is maybe just a rape or something extremely devastating, but it's not. It's everyday situations that really do impact a child in many ways, and it gets buried or stuffed in, and nobody talks about it, and then it comes out later as an adult. And if you'd like, I'll go into the top 10 so the listeners would understand.
So we can go into that, and we'll learn from your top 10. And we'll see which one I fit into.
Write them down.
How much trauma I have that was from that list.
Everybody should write them down in case they want to discuss it later with me, because you'll be surprised at how many might show up for you. And as I go through them, we try to look at it as a fact. Did this happen or did it not? This is not about blame or shame. We're not looking to blame your mom and dad at this stage of your life, and we're not looking to shame you if it happened. You were a child. You were innocent. You're just a product of your environment. So what happens is children, again, develop coping mechanisms to deal with things that come up. And some just aren't, they're normalized and then come out as an adult, and they don't even see the patterns that they're doing. But I'll get into the patterns second. So the first one on the list is addiction of the caretaker. So if mom or dad, and I name quite a few of them because I'm also a drug and alcohol addictions counselor. So it's drugs and alcohol. Sex, that means you knew your parent was cheating. So some kind of sex addiction. Porn, gambling, hoarding, spending, eating, gaming, TV watching, workaholism, and I also add social media addiction.
Okay, I think I have almost all.
It's big today. Kids are being ignored because people are on machines instead of interacting with their kids, and it's not good. The younger kids today, because of machines, can't interview. They don't have social confidence. It's really bad. Okay, so the machines have become quite an addiction. So that's the first one. Second one is verbal abuse. And yes, you could have watched mom or dad yelling and screaming, but it's also if they yell and scream at you, or if they're mad, they shut down, which we call passive aggressive, and they don't talk to you for hours or days. More common is that you may have never heard compliments or the words, I love you. So you're always trying to please the difficult parent that could be lashing out to you verbally. So verbal's a big one. The third one is emotional abuse or neglect. The fourth one is physical abuse, any kind of hitting, severe hitting. Rape, molestation is under physical abuse of some kind, and those could have happened inside or outside of the home. Even if your home life was perfect and you walked to school, got beat up every day by bullies, that's physical abuse that you endured as a kid. Okay. Next one, abandonment. There's 2 types, fault and no fault abandonment. So a no fault abandonment would be if a parent happened to die early, if they had to leave to go off. Other would be parent traveled a lot due to work. I'm like, oh wow, my dad was barely ever home. Now I didn't think that was trauma. Thought about it. I do remember as a kid asking, when's daddy coming home? And my mom would never know. She goes, later we find out my dad was CIA and FBI. That was where he was to protect the family. So it was always wondering, is my dad okay? Which is a form of no fault abandonment. That's how we supported our family, you see. So it still counts. Then there's fault abandonment. So let's say there's a parent never in the child's life, or they're in their life while they're young, and then there might be a divorce or a breakup, and then they're not in their life anymore. They barely come around. If they do, it's something the child can't count on. So there's always that feeling of wanting more. Or even there's abandonment when the parent's in the home. So let's say the parent works hard, comes home, barely talks to the kids, demands dinner, sits in front of the TV, and never interacts with the kids. That's emotional abandonment. Okay. So there's all kinds of emotional abandonment going on. The next one is adoption. If you were adopted, part of the foster care system, or had to go live at other people's homes because mom and dad couldn't take care of you. Trauma number 7 is one of the most commonly quickly recognized. And this we call personal trauma. So this is if you ever felt different. So you might have been a heavy child, skinny and gawky child, and bullied and teased at school. You might have been of a different race or culture and not like everybody else in school. You might have been coming out as LGBTQ and felt different and teased and bullied or not good enough. You know, you might have had asthma or a diagnosis ADHD in the school. Now me, I worked in every grade level at the schools. So when I say I worked with kids of trauma, that was my role as a SAC counselor. So they come in angry, upset because they heard anger and their parents fighting in the morning. And so many of these kids are misdiagnosed ADHD because they're so hyper anxious. And when cortisol is up, learning and memory is down. So what did they do in Miss Riana's relaxation room? We'd sit and we'd meditate. Now we're talking year 2000 to 2004. Before meditation we even thought about in the school, because I had to get their system and their body and the trauma calmed down. And they went back kind of in a Zen-like state, you know, or they come in and I play one of their favorite music was Louis Miguel. It's a Spanish love singer. And I don't know Spanish, but it relaxed me and it relaxed them, you know? So the teachers are there, wow, the kid left all riled up and he's coming back like happy and calm. What are you doing in there? You know? So these were techniques that I used, plus positive parenting techniques as well, to help change a child's life. And when we did, their grades went up, their friendships went up. They didn't need their ADHD medication. So, I mean, these were new cutting edge techniques based on my research that wasn't even heard of back then. You know, so personal trauma within schools or neighborhoods are very, very big. Okay. Trauma number 8 is sibling trauma. Your sibling might have been perceived as the golden child. So either the star athlete, more handsome, more beautiful, super smart, and you weren't, you're always compared to the sibling. Or the sibling bullied you, or the sibling was born with a medical condition that commanded more of mom's and dad's time. But that's trauma number 8. Trauma number 9 has 2 traumas. Actually, I brought in number 11 because I keep it at the top 10, but I can't not have it. So the one that was later down the road before years ago was community trauma. There wasn't that much community trauma going on. Recently, we have school shootings, we have mass shootings, we have riots, we have hurricanes, floods, fires. When we were growing up, the baby boomers, my generation, there wasn't much of community trauma at all. But this is really rampant and everyone is experiencing trauma number 9 in our world, which is COVID. This is a community trauma. So you get that example. Okay, the other part of 9 is family trauma. And that's if the family might have moved every 2 to 4 years. In the US, the military families have to move all the time. That puts the children in different schools with different friends. If you grew up in a dangerous community, you remember being afraid walking to school, or you grew up with a lot of lack. Money was tight and you were always afraid, you know, will we have enough to pay the bills? Now with COVID again, families losing work and jobs and businesses closing. Here is family trauma emerging for all our kids in our society. So when people say, I didn't have any childhood traumas, yes, most people do, you know, and how it comes out later in life is what we're concerned about. And trauma number 10 is the mental health of the parents. Now, a lot of the baby boomers or different cultures, they didn't go to therapists, right? So we kind of had to guess if our parents had any mental health issues. So the 2 hardest for children to deal with is bipolar and borderline personality disorder.
Mm.
Borderline I describe as fast trigger anger. You
Yeah.
never know what you're going to get. When they're
Yeah.
good, they're great. When they're
Mhm.
bad, they're horrid.
Yeah.
And they snap and get angry at the smallest things nobody else would. So that leaves a child in a constant anxious state.
Mm.
Okay. Bipolar is manic depressive.
Mm.
Manic could be high in happy moods, but it's also a gambling spree, a spending spree, an eating binge, hoarding.
Mm.
Those are all signs of manic phase.
Mhm.
Depression can come out as anger, extreme
Yeah.
fatigue, or emotionally checking out.
Yeah.
So those are the top 10, and there are more.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I mean, I can, like all of them. I've experienced all of them, even in my own, personal relationship and, my parents, my dad, and, all these things that I've gone through and, and the men that I was attracted to my life, that's the same kind of trauma. And every single one that now that I had time to reflect back and I had time to look at each of these relationships and what it was serving me, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And we don't realize when we're in that kind of situation, right? Like we go through life, we don't know.
Unless you become consciously aware and learn the system that I teach.
Exactly.
And that's, I usually get people after very long toxic marriages or 2 to 3 toxic relationships, and they can't figure out what's going wrong.
Yeah.
I mostly have younger people like 28 to 35 that want marriage and a family and they want an emotionally healthy partner, or like 45 to 65 who've been through several toxic relationships and don't want to repeat that again. So it's really, it's a solid education. My workbook's 150 pages.
Wow.
My Live and Love books are part of the curriculum, but they have to do life coaching first, which is getting them beyond the trauma, emotional trigger response, recognizing what they had as children and how that's coming out as adults now, fix all that, and create the life they desire. Part 1, and then part 2, give them the exact skills they need to meet, attract an emotionally healthy partner, what to look for that is good and bad, and say yes or no to that person in front of them, whether they get a second date or not. And if I work with a couple, whether they're married or straight, LGBTQ, I work with everyone. They then I have to look at both of their childhood traumas individually, see what's showing up, and then what's coming up in the coupled relationship to teach them better and newer communication styles. And then they have a new form of empathy for each other that's like, whoa, okay, she's just being triggered because that happened. It's not about me. She's not really angry at me. So it's a whole new understanding with the couples. And my couples excel once they learn this system. It's amazing. And my singles, their confidence and self-esteem go up really high in part 1. So by the time they get out there and dating, they're not settling for less. Their life is in order. They're feeling amazing. There's no more anxiety, no depression, and they want someone equally evolved.
Yeah, exactly. And I always tell my friends and my son, is like, your children are a reflection of how you bring them up. Their upbringing, right? And
well, I have to tell you, the mindset for success works amazingly for kids. And I raised my daughters with this. And it's not like I meant them to be science experiments.
I know.
My 37-year, she's about to be 37. She's 36.
That's amazing. You don't look that age.
Thank you. Alexi Panos is her name. She's a global coach. A lot of people might know about her. But she was an Inc. and Forbes magazine as one of the top 11 entrepreneur women changing the world. At 20, she's putting water wells in Africa. She put, 21 in so far in her life. So it gives them this confidence in the guts and say, I can do whatever I dreamed to do. She wanted to be a singer. She sings on 3 multi-platinum CDs. She wanted to be a TV host. She does that, so both of my girls, whatever career they desire, they create it out of their thought processes. They don't go for loans. I never went for business loans when I created my businesses. It's the idea, the mindset, and then you're living a life that you're passionate about. And that's when you attract someone else who's passionate about their life, you see.
Well, that's kudos to you though, because you went through the journey, and that's why single parents, I believe that even though it was a hardship for parents who are divorced, but I feel like the single parent where there's a strong role model that has the trauma is gone, right? it makes our kids more appreciative of the relationship, right? And then where
Well,
they, yeah,
I
they
call
learn more.
myself mother father. I
Yeah.
was a single mom. They were young. I
Mm-hmm.
had to work.
Mm-hmm.
I was the one that ended up paying child support. So I
Mm-hmm.
had no help from anyone ever.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, but I thought they're going to make it in this world without being married or having a man.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to be
Yeah,
accomplished young women.
exactly.
So I wanted them to make sure that they believed in themselves and their
Yeah.
dreams and how
Yeah.
I raised them. That's a whole nother interview on parenting skills.
Yeah, right.
But by the time they were 19, his daughters are completely out of the house,
Yeah.
independent, never not asking me for any money. You know,
Yeah.
they had great careers.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's parenting. That's what we're supposed to do. Our
Mm-hmm.
responsibility is to have our kids successfully launch.
Yeah.
So I also have a life transition program for those 16 to 30
Mm-hmm.
that are still living at home, kids that are depressed and upset and worried,
Mm-hmm.
and they are going through a lot right now.
Yeah.
So if your teen, your late teen seems a little lost and they don't know if they want college, they don't know what they want, and they're just
Yeah.
working at a fast food place,
Yeah.
that's not, you know, giving them the skills that they need to succeed.
Yeah.
So a lot of parents enroll their kids in my programs to work with me one-on-one.
Yeah.
And I find their purpose and what direction they're going in. And this works amazing for young people too.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, I came from a disadvantaged background. You know, I didn't came over here as a refugee from Vietnam with my family with 8 kids. You know, we don't have those opportunities. We don't know. We don't know what we don't know. And even if that, we don't have the resources. My parents can't afford to have me going to, coaching. And I didn't even know as an adult until later on. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go and start figuring these out and, you know, find out how to help myself. And then as I learn, I reflect on how I was raising my son when he was small. I didn't know that some of the things I was doing to him was creating those trauma until the divorce happened. I'm like, oh my goodness, I created a lot of the trauma, the situation at home created the trauma for him. And now and now like being aware as a parent and the impact that we have for our children, you start making these changes and you start empowering them.
That's right. Yeah, I love to get moms or dads that are single and help them learn the mindset so they can teach their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I always worry about how your kid's doing because I worked in the schools, right? I was the counselor at every grade level.
Yeah.
So I'm very good about teaching the parents how to teach their kids to be more empowered and successful.
Yeah.
That's really important. And, you know, to be part of the family team and not be a rebel or not get themselves in trouble because they came from a broken home. It doesn't matter. If you have one strong, consciously aware parent, like I was, mother, father, then they will succeed no matter what that other parent's doing or the negative messages they tell that child, because the mindset keeps them stronger, you know, than what anyone else could say that's toxic. And it could be a teacher or a coach that puts the kid down too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, oh, you'll never make varsity, or you're, you know, you're always messing up. You know, the messages that come from coaches are terrible in this, in sports in high school.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's all kinds coming at a child from all different directions, plus the family environment.
Yeah.
And the research shows childhood trauma goes through at least 3 generations, at least 3.
That's crazy.
So if you found that you had some traumas on this list, so did your parents and so did their parents. So it's a new understanding. It's a lot of forgiveness. There's a spiritual component to this.
Yeah.
A lot of science, a lot of research, brain science. So that's the program called Dating to Mating for singles and Relationship Rescue for couples. But let me go into, Ngoc, I think this is important that people know how this comes out. Like, well, how does trauma show up as an adult?
Yes.
So if you have a partner that seems to be very jealous, that comes from trauma number 7, usually not feeling good enough. They never outgrew those painful messages. And a lot of times verbal abuse, trauma number 2. So, and that in combination. Lying could be from that child that if he told the truth, that he'd get into trouble and get beaten. So a child will lie to escape a beating, and then they learn to lie brilliantly. So, you know, parents who discipline by smacking their kids all over the place, they're doing a huge disservice. That's not how you discipline a child. The word discipline's from the Bible. It means to teach. Our job is to teach our children a better way. They're not supposed to know better.
Yes.
We're supposed to teach them that,
That's
the
right.
life skills, right?
Right.
So lying comes from that, the fear of being punished or
Yeah.
rejected.
Yeah.
And that's where manipulation comes from.
Yes.
Impulsivity is one of the most risky and toxic behavior patterns, because if you're impulsive for yourself, not only like my ex, did he ruin his life, but he ruined my life. And the children were infected by his actions that he didn't even think through.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, people pleasing, that's a big one for women. Again, that difficult parent to avoid the yelling, screaming, and the harsh punishments. They would people please to death, the mother or the father. That was very difficult. Then that's what they learn that love is. You know, so I often have, let's say, a woman come in with her husband. She goes, I do everything for him.
Yeah.
And he does nothing for me. The kids do nothing for me. Nobody loves me like I love them.
Yeah.
Right? Because that was the message. I get love if I do and overdo and please people.
Yeah.
So we have to work on boundaries all the time.
Yeah.
Abandonment issues as a child leads to love addiction, codependencies, and toxic repetitive relationships.
Yeah.
And the one relationship you might break up 7 times and go back, and you break up and you go back.
Yeah.
That's from abandonment. That's where the soul is saying, I need love so bad that at least I have love, even if he's yelling and screaming and hitting me.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's very deep-seated childhood trauma with abandonment.
Yeah.
Addictions, spending on things. You know, I have some hoarders that have come to me. It's because they find love through things. So 2 things could have happened. Either they came from a very wealthy family where the parents greatly ignored them, and the only time they felt love is if they got a present.
Yeah.
Or they came from a lot of lack.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I can have that now. I want to buy that. I want this. I want that, because they were always told as a kid, you can't have that.
Yeah.
You know, so it's one or the other.
Yeah.
For our model singers, actors, dancers, there's a lot of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I don't deserve to be this way. I don't deserve to be an actress or a model. So they might sabotage themselves with drugs and alcohol because they don't have the belief system. Perfectionism is huge, needing to be perfect, high in control, need to control, and blaming others.
Yeah.
Now, I'll give your listeners an example of one of our highest political officials who has extreme unhealed childhood trauma.
Yeah.
He does a lot of blurting out, saying things totally inappropriate.
Yes. Yes.
Always looking for accolades. See, didn't I do good?
Yeah.
And if they didn't praise him and say you did good, they're not getting the things at the state level that they need.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's a prime example. I remember walking by the TV once and I heard, do you think he has a mental health illness? I'm like, no, he has unhealed childhood trauma. I should be his mindset coach.
Yeah.
You know, so. But when you know this information, it becomes very clear to see.
It is, yeah.
When someone is suffering from that unhealed trauma.
Yeah,
you know,
it's so powerful. We should just have, like, you know, the foundation is a family, and then the school. Like, the teachers are so impactful. Like, if we can teach the teachers how to be aware of these things and the language you're using to the children, because the children are with the teachers all the time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the parents, we see our kids at night and, you know, in the morning, but the teacher all through the day, that's who they spend their time with. It's like your coworker, right? So they're
again, you know, it takes a village to build a child, right?
Yeah.
So their kids are hearing messages all over.
Yes.
From their peers, and now with social media, kids are terribly bullied, you know, on all those platforms.
Yeah.
Their teachers, their coaches, their parents. So it's bombardment all over the place of these messages of not feeling good enough.
Yes.
How does this show up later in life, in relationships? I just mentioned that. In business, it could be that person that's like, I hate my job, my 9-to-5 job, but I won't leave it.
Yeah.
Well, why?
Yeah.
Well, I can't invest in a business. What if I don't make it?
That's
you know, lack messages. They don't invest in themselves. You know, they're afraid to get coaching.
Yeah.
As soon as you're clear of this, it's like, yes, I'm getting that coach because I know I need it, and I'm going to feel amazing about doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and you do it guilt-free. And, you know,
I was the same, actually. I didn't invest in coaching. And I was like, always like, I had so many businesses, and I keep trying different businesses. And finally, you know, I said, I got to invest in coaching. And it
You
has
have to
changed my
invest to
life.
know what you're doing.
Yeah, and now it's like I'm clear. I know exactly what I need. I invested in myself in coaching, but I've always like read books and things like that. But finally, just like, okay, I need to get a
You know,
coach.
people can read books and attend
Yeah,
all my free
but the
classes
same.
that I offer. It's not like me working with them
Yeah,
one-on-one in their own soul and psyche
yeah,
work. I have to work with their unconscious and
yes,
make them consciously aware. I
yeah,
mean, it is what I would call personal mind control that
yeah,
I'm teaching.
yeah,
And then once they have that, then they're not like, if somebody ghosts them, they're no longer saying, oh, don't they like me? What's the matter with me? Which
yeah,
most people do,
yeah,
especially women. What's the
yeah,
matter with me?
yeah,
Nothing's the matter with you.
yeah,
You say, thank you, God, for showing me early on that this guy has no respect and no
yeah,
skills
yeah,
and how to treat someone.
yeah,
Next,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and it's like,
Out of here.
yeah, it's like, great. You know, it's a numbers game. So
Yeah,
it's a whole different approach. You
yeah,
don't, you know, have all these self putting
yeah,
down messages or feeling
yeah,
not good enough.
yeah.
Right.
That's
So you
amazing.
really need the first part of my program before
Yeah,
you go out and date.
yeah,
And it's the same for the couples. Like they really need to understand where these origins are coming for and stop
yeah,
blaming their partner and
yeah,
look at themselves and
exactly.
become responsible
Yeah,
about the messages and actions that they're doing.
yeah. I mean,
And
I
then be
reflect
able to
back
have,
and I see it. I mean, I reflect back. It's like, why I'm blamed for everything. It's like, why don't you take ownership of
yeah.
how you play into this relationship? You know, it's 100%, not 50-50. It's 100% going in, you know, and you can't
Well,
just,
that
yeah,
blaming and lack of responsibility is childhood trauma.
yeah,
You know, not feeling good enough. They
yeah,
don't want to admit they're not good
no,
enough. So
yeah,
they have, what do they do with all that energy? They have to blame someone else.
yeah. And the ego plays such a huge role.
Yeah,
It's like the
it
ego, if
does.
you don't take mindful of the ego that steps in and just takes control, it's just crazy. But
It's the
yeah,
unconscious is in control of most people's lives. The
yeah,
stats are about 5 to 6% of us live consciously aware.
yeah. It's
And that
crazy.
and spiritual, and that's something we are 24/7. That's just
Yeah,
who we are.
yeah.
You
I
know, and
think
once
I
you
can talk to you
become,
forever, you know? I mean, we can be on the phone for hours and hours and never stop talking about all the things that, so, but everything you say just resonates and it makes total
yeah, it's
sense to me.
important.
And so I'm going to ask that one question, and then we're going to
Okay.
give information on how people can find you, right? And then so that one
Okay.
question is, you have that one superpower that I mentioned, one superpower to change the world. What would your superpower be?
I'm doing it right now.
Awesome.
And
Yeah, I know
everything
what.
I do.
Yeah,
I'm a life and love trauma recovery coach, mindfulness coach.
yeah, yeah,
I do it in my books, my
yeah,
podcasts, my summits,
yeah.
in my individual and my group coaching, working with men and women, straight LGBTQ from 16. My oldest client was 73.
Wow.
So that's why I love what I do. I'm doing my passion
Powerful.
and my purpose work.
Oh,
And the
amazing.
way I transform lives, oh my God, it's
Yeah,
just a blessing. And I know God's just channeling what I need to do.
yeah. And
Like,
that God's bringing me to you. The universe just brings us together to create this summit, just to bring
yeah,
more awareness to what we're doing and impacting ourselves, our children, our society, our community. And just that's just acknowledging that what I mean, I honor you and the
thank
amazing
you.
work
You
that you
too.
do, and your children is an example of how powerful that you have taught them, and the
Thank you.
values you passed on to them, and you know that they created this life for them that they're passionate about, you know. And
Yeah,
that's
they're
just,
great women.
yeah, all end of the day, that's what we are. We're just powerful, great women, that we're just impactful and being able to make changes and just being aware of how we show up for people. I think it's just
Yeah.
unbelievable. So how do people find you?
The best way is you can Google search me, Riana Milne, but
Mm-hmm.
rianamilne.com is my website. And that has the hub of everything. You can get the 4 free love tests there.
Yeah,
Definitely get the ebook that's free on
yeah,
how to have the love you deserve and overcome childhood trauma. That's a big one.
yeah,
If you're interested in coaching, mentoring, I have a program on that.
yes,
So I have programs for couples and like I said, singles as well as young people
yeah,
on life transition.
yeah,
And my podcast,
yeah,
lessonsinlifeandlove.com.
yeah,
YouTube, I've got 250 training tapes for free on my
yeah.
Riana Milne channel. And my
Awesome.
Facebook is Coach Riana Milne.
That's
So
awesome.
you'll find me all over the place.
All over. That's amazing. And what we can offer for people watching this show, you know, if they click on the to sign up, we're going to do a random offering of something like your ebook or what.
Yes, you can also get a Life and Love Transformation Discovery Session. That's a
Awesome.
$500 value.
Yeah.
It's for sale on my website at only $47 right now at a promotional rate. And we
Yeah.
sit down privately, you and I, for 1 hour.
Yeah.
And go
Wow.
over your childhood traumas and how they're showing up in your relationships.
Yeah.
And I get to the bottom of why it's happening.
Yeah.
So in 1 hour, people said in that session, in 1 hour, they learn more than 7 or 8 years in therapy.
Oh my God, that's
So
so powerful. That's the most amazing thing, is bringing the subconscious to the conscious mind, right?
Yes.
And being aware of like those things that we're doing that's not serving us and serving our family and our people around us.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, thank you so
much.
much. Yes,
it's time for them to
much.
create the life they desire and to have the love they deserve.
You
Go
know,
for it.
this is honestly, it is the right time, because this paradigm shift that we're experiencing we need to be like, we either take it for what it is and just complain or look at the negativity, but we just choose to shift our mindset and shift our paradigm and figure out, okay, what is it we want to do? What brings us joy? What can we do to create a life that we want and love and the relationship that we want? So to me, it's just like, it's so empowering right now just to understand that and creating this new shift that we're in.
It is,
yeah.
for sure.
Yes. Well,
thank you,
so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.